Okay, so here I'll be showing you how just by learning this one principle, you will improve your chess drastically. That is all you need. I know you've been told, oh, you need to learn this, you need to learn that. No, I'm going to teach you one principle that you're going to learn, and it's going to literally improve your game by about 500 to 1000 ELO points. Bear with me here. Once you learn this, you see how simple chess literally is. So we'll be analyzing through this game I played against a 1600. Let's go through it just from the start. So I played e4, basically controlling the center. Notice all of this game will be trying to fight for this particular center. So every move that we play will be trying to fight for the center, trying to put a piece in the center or removing your opponent's piece control of these particular squares. So e4, I'm controlling this square, right? So e4 controls d5. My opponent plays the Caro-Kann. So I am anticipating my opponent to bring a piece to d5. So basically this pawn comes here. So I can prevent it from coming to this square. This is also controlling that particular central square. So not bad at all. Everything in accordance with the principles. I'm not breaking anything at all. I can also play this to control the center. When my opponent pushes, I can just take. This is called the exchange variation. There's advanced variation. We'll get into more details about this if you fully understand this principle. So this is the only principle that you particularly need. So let's see. My opponent, I play c4. My opponent brings their pawn out. So at this point, all that I want to do is just eliminate that pawn in the center. Most people like to say, oh, this pawn is a weakness, but you will notice in most cases, this pawn actually proves to be a strength because your opponent doesn't have a way to attack that pawn. So in most cases, you do not have a weakness, but a strength because it creates imbalances that are necessary in the game for you to win it. So notice in this game, I just take, my opponent takes. Yeah, simple things, right? My opponent tries to capture this pawn with a knight instead of bringing out the queen because I'm just going to develop my knight immediately and put away the queen, right? So this is it's a good move. Nothing wrong with it. Trying to control the center, they're controlling this square and that square, which is okay. What do? I bring a piece that is controlling the center. It's controlling e4 and d5. All the moves that we're going to play control over the center. I'm either controlling the center or removing a piece control over the center. There will be moves that are going to be deliberate, not exactly controlling the center, but they remove your opponent's control over the center. So let's see how that goes. My opponent captures. I can take, notice, I can take the knight, but I'll be developing the piece in the center, right? The queen, once the queen comes here, it will be holding a lot of space in the center, and I don't have a way to remove it. Basically, it controls everything and anything it can see in the center. Like, that is too much control that I'm going to give to the queen. So I would rather my opponent takes me and I take with a pawn while I control the d4 square. So everything is just about control of the center. Control of the center back to back. So you see, everything is just trying to control the center. Everything is linked and everything is controlling the center. Talking about linked and linking your pieces, we'll talk more about that later. But for now, I want you to grasp this as much as you possibly can, controlling the center. I know most people talk about, oh, you have to control the center, but they don't explain it in this particular way. And that's what I want to show you. So this is a mistake, right? Can somebody tell me in the comments why this is a mistake? But this is a mistake. I'll give you about 2 seconds for you to, maybe 5 seconds, for you to figure out why this is a mistake. Okay, so this is a mistake because there's a bishop here, right? It has been developed. What is it controlling? It's controlling the center quite all right, yes. But it is exposed. It is a little bit weak, right? And you need to remember it was defending something previously, this particular pawn. And also, it is in a way over a pawn, which I can easily attack if the bishop decides to go back. So it cannot even go back and defend that particular pawn. That's why developing the bishop here is not a good idea, right? The best move would have just been to bring out the pawn so that the bishop can have an opening and my opponent castles. That would have been okay. You can develop your bishop here, and that's also okay if you want to develop your bishop that badly. But yeah, what do I play? Immediately, I play that move. I'm controlling the center. Again, all the moves that we've played, controlling the center. I'm making the game as simple as possible. Just control the center. Try as much as possible to control the center. Once you understand that, chess becomes easy. You can easily see through a lot of moves that your opponent play. You can see the mistakes. Your opponent is not trying to control the center, or they're not trying to control the center appropriately, right? So in the case of my opponent, they were not controlling the center appropriately. And what happens? I take advantage of that. So I'm trying to capture that and putting pressure on the pawn. So they have to move their bishop away. Taking it back would be, I would say, the best move, because it also be defending that, or they can also push and then just allow for me to take the pawn, because they can't do anything at this point, right? What does my opponent play? They drop back. I take the pawn. I'm threatening. The rook captures, right? So my opponent needs to do something about that. This is the best move. My opponent plays it. It's controlling the center, but also it's preventing me from capturing that rook. Because if I take then the rook queen takes, I lose her, I cannot, that's a bad move. So in this case, what do? I play the bishop there. Why? Because in as much as I'm leaving control of the center, I'm putting pressure on the knight. That is controlling the center and also controlling the movements over the rook. Because where the rook goes now is determined by the position of this knight. Because the rook cannot be further away, because once I take here, this is forced. And also, the queen has to come out. So the rook now needs to go to a square where it is very secure, because it's going to be defended by this queen that is going to be here, because this is forced. Once I capture there, I cannot capture with a queen. So I'm leaving the center because I have a very good counterplay this side. And my opponent doesn't have a way to counter that. If they play here, like I said, I'm capturing there the knight, check. So the knight no longer defends the rook that is going to be here. Let me just show you quickly what I'm talking about, right? So now I'm playing the bishop here, which is the move that I played. If my opponent plays here, I take the knight, that is check, it's forced. After this, I'm taking the rook. And now the queen has to drop back. I can even exchange and I end up winning, right? And that is what I'm talking about. So my opponent initially didn't want to take control of the center, and they ended up losing the game. So something similar in the game happens, right? So the only move that works in that particular case is, that is not a good move. That's what my opponent played, right? This is the only move that works. So it gives up the pawn here. So I can take the pawn and the game continues, right? Nothing spectacular there, nothing particularly interesting happening. I just gain some pawns. I'll have a passed pawn and I'll end up winning. So my opponent plays, yeah, they play e6, which is not a good move, because now it allows for me to capture the rook. So here there was a move that they could have played, which is this move. It doesn't work because I have this move, which just allows for me to capture the rook, because this is an open discovery check. And also I can hunt down the king by playing moves like this. When my opponent comes out, I come here, block. I can even push this, or I can bring out my bishop. I give up this bishop so that I can go and capture the rook. But the best move in a particular case would just be bring out the bishop with a discovery check. At this point, just bring out my bishop and goes out. I take that for free and I end up winning. So in that particular case, my opponent would be very much losing, and very quickly. So they didn't play there. So this is the move that they played. Captured. I captured the rook for free. They came back. I wanted to exchange, but I can capture a pawn. Why not? They brought the bishop in here, so now they're trying to get ideas of checkmating me. And in this case, there is no checkmate immediately, so I just develop a knight, bringing it towards the center, right? Should be intuitive. They bring their queen to that square. Again, they cannot checkmate me. Why? Because I'm controlling that square with a knight. So what can I do? I can check. In the meantime, they come out. I have that splendid check. Play here. I can capture here immediately, but I was trying to look for quick checkmates so that the game doesn't last long. I played there. My opponent dropped back. I came there. I just took. Why? Because my opponent doesn't have a way to infiltrate. So my opponent came there. I played check. And then here, I just bring my queen here so that I can come and checkmate my opponent. I'm trying to create ways to checkmate my opponent, and I'm also preventing my opponent from having control of this square. After my opponent moves, I bring out my bishop. Now I'm threatening checkmating too, right? So my opponent has to force their exchange. After I take, and they take, I bring out my knight here. Now I'm threatening to come here, and my opponent cannot do anything about it. So they ended up resigning. And just notice how my game just was so easy. Why? Because I applied this one principle, just controlling the center. And that is what I want you to understand. When you just learn this one principle, you just become so easy. Your thinking process is just so in tune. Everything just makes sense. You don't have to overcomplicate anything. You just do that. Control the center. Every move should be aimed towards controlling the center. This is the center. Once you try to put as much pressure here as possible, now the next thing to control would be that. That's the closest, those are the closest square to the center. But yeah, once you control these squares, you should be winning a game. Because from here you can reroute your pieces to any side of the board because they're centralized. This knight here can easily go there, can easily go there, can easily go there, right? And it has just so much control over the game. Like all of the squares that the knight can go to are very effective squares if it is in the center, as compared to if it is at the edge. So yeah, always aim to put your pieces in the center, and the game just plays itself.